It wasn't a suggestion. It was a demand disguised as a family conversation, delivered over my own kitchen table in the house I no longer owned. "We need you to co-sign the business loan, Dorothy." My daughter's boyfriend, Marcus, didn't even look up from his phone when he said it. Just tapped away at the screen like he was ordering takeout, not asking me to put my financial future on the line. I sat across from them, my hands wrapped around a coffee mug that had gone cold. The morning light came through the window, the same window I used to look through in my old apartment before I made the mistake of listening to them. Before I sold everything to help them get started. "Co-sign?" I repeated carefully. "Yeah." Marcus finally glanced up, and there was something in his eyes I'd been ignoring for 6 months. Something calculating. The bank says, "We need someone with better credit. You know, established history. Your pension and Social Security make you perfect." My daughter, Rebecca, shifted beside him. She was 38 years old, and I watched her fingers twist together in her lap the way they used to when she was 7 and had broken something she wasn't supposed to touch. But she didn't say anything, just sat there, silent. "What kind of business loan?" I asked. "Import-export," Marcus said. Like that explained everything. Quality goods from overseas. There's a huge market for it. We'll triple our investment in the first year. I'd heard him talk about business ideas before. In the 6 months since I'd moved in, since I'd sold my paid-off apartment and given them $40,000 for the down payment on this house, I'd heard about cryptocurrency mining, drop shipping, social media marketing, and something involving protein supplements. None of them had materialized into actual income, but they'd all required startup capital. "How much is the loan?" I asked. $75,000. He said it like it was nothing, like $75,000 was spare change you'd find in coat pockets. The number hit me like cold water. I'd worked for 37 years as a registered nurse. I'd raised Rebecca alone after her father walked out when she was 2. I'd saved and planned and been careful with every dollar so I could retire with dignity. My pension was $1,700 a month. My Social Security was another $1,400. I lived on that. I contributed to this household with that, and he wanted me to guarantee $75,000? "Marcus, I don't think I started. It's basically a formality," he cut me off. "We're the ones making the payments. Your name just needs to be on the paperwork. The bank is being ridiculous about our credit history. That thing from 2019 shouldn't even count anymore." I didn't know what thing from 2019 he meant, but the fact that there was a thing at all made my stomach tighten. "Mom," Rebecca finally spoke, and her voice was soft, pleading. "We really need this. Marcus has been working so hard on the business plan. This could change everything for us, for our future, our future." She said it like I was included in that future, but the way Marcus looked at me made me feel like a resource to be extracted, not family to be cherished. "I need to think about it," I said. Marcus's jaw tightened, but he forced a smile. "Sure, Dorothy. Take your time. We've got until Friday to give the bank an answer. 3 days. He was giving me 3 days to decide whether to risk everything I'd spent a lifetime building. I'd moved in with them 6 months ago, not because I needed to, but because Rebecca had asked. She'd called me one Sunday afternoon, her voice bright with excitement. "Mom, we found the perfect house. It's got 4 bedrooms, a huge backyard, and there's even a mother-in-law suite downstairs. You could have your own space." I'd been happy in my apartment. It was small, but mine paid off, manageable, in a senior community with friends and activities. But Rebecca had painted such a picture. You'd be close to us. We could have family dinners. You could help with planning when we eventually have kids. And honestly, Mom, having you contribute to the down payment would make this possible for us? That should have been my first warning sign. Not would you consider helping, but having you contribute. Like it was already decided. But she was my daughter, my only child. And after decades of working night shifts and double shifts and every holiday shift to give her opportunities, I wanted to help her build her life. So I sold my apartment. I gave them the $40,000. I moved into the mother-in-law suite that turned out to be a renovated basement with concrete walls and a bathroom that smelled like mildew, no matter how much I cleaned it. It's temporary, Rebecca had promised, just until we save up to finish it properly. Maybe 6 months? That was March. Now it was September, and the only changes to my basement room were the boxes of Marcus's business inventory stacked against one-wall boxes that had been there for 4 months, still unopened. In those first weeks, I'd tried to be helpful. I'd cook dinner, do laundry, tidy up the living room. But Marcus had opinions about everything. The way I folded his shirts was wrong. The meals I cooked were too heavy. The cleaning products I used weren't the brand he preferred. Rebecca would smooth things over, apologize for him, say he was just stressed about money. The money. It always came back to money. Mom, could you grab some groceries while you're out? Would turn into a $150 receipt that I paid for because Rebecca's card was declined, and it was easier than making a scene at the checkout. Dorothy. The water bill was really high this month became an expectation that I'd cover it, even though I took 3-minute showers and barely used water compared to Marcus's hour-long bathroom sessions. We're a little short on the mortgage payment, turned into me writing a check for $600 from my savings account, watching the balance I'd built over decades shrink month by month. I'd contributed $11,000 in 6 months beyond the initial $40,000. I knew because I'd started keeping a ledger, writing everything down in a small notebook I kept in my nightstand drawer. Groceries, utilities, property tax, homeowner's insurance, the new washer when the old one broke, the vet bill for their dog that I didn't even want, $11,000. And now Marcus wanted me to co-sign for $75,000 more. I couldn't sleep that night. I lay in my basement room, listening to them argue upstairs. Their voices were muffled by the floor, but I caught enough words to understand. Marcus was angry that I hadn't agreed immediately. Rebecca was defending me, but weakly, like she was reading lines from a script she didn't believe in. "She's your mother," I heard Marcus say clearly. "She should want to help us." The next morning, I called my friend Patricia from the senior community where I used to live. We'd stayed in touch, meeting for coffee once a month. She'd been the one person who'd questioned my decision to move in with Rebecca. "Dorothy, honey, how are you?" Her voice was warm, familiar, safe. "I need advice," I said. I told her everything. The money I'd given them, the expenses I'd been covering, the co-signing request. As I spoke, I heard how it sounded, and shame burned in my chest. How had I let this happen? Patricia was quiet for a moment after I finished. Then she said, "Dorothy, you know what this is, right?" "What?" "Financial elder abuse." The words hit me like a slap. "No, it's not like that. Rebecca loves me. She's just in a relationship with a man who's exploiting both of you," Patricia interrupted. "But honey, she's an adult, making her own choices. You're her mother, and he's using that relationship to access your money. That's abuse." "I don't know. Do not co-sign that loan," Patricia said firmly. "And Dorothy, you need to protect yourself. Can you get copies of your financial statements? Check your credit report? Make sure they haven't already opened anything in your name?" A cold dread settled in my stomach. It hadn't occurred to me to check. Why would it? These were the people I trusted most in the world. That afternoon, while Rebecca was at work and Marcus was supposedly meeting with investors, I went to the bank. I pulled my credit report, and there it was. A credit card I'd never applied for, opened 4 months ago, with a $7,000 balance. My hands shook as I looked at the transactions. Restaurants I'd never been to, electronics stores, a payment to something called Apex Consulting Solutions. The billing address was this house. "Ma'am, are you all right?" The bank representative, a young woman named Jennifer, looked concerned. "I didn't open this account," I said. My voice sounded distant, like it was coming from somewhere outside my body. "Have you been a victim of identity theft?" she asked. "Yes," I said. Then, quieter. "No, I mean, I think I know who did it." Jennifer's expression shifted to something like, Recognition. Is it someone you live with? I nodded. I see this more than you'd think, she said gently. Let me get you some paperwork to report the fraud, and I'd recommend filing a police report as well. It's my daughter's boyfriend, I said. If I report it? He committed fraud, Jennifer said. That's a crime regardless of his relationship to you. I took the paperwork home. I didn't fill it out right away. Instead, I sat in my basement room, staring at the credit card statement, trying to understand how I'd gotten here. I'd spent my career taking care of people, advocating for patients who couldn't advocate for themselves, spotting the warning signs of abuse and neglect, and I'd missed every single red flag in my own life. That evening, Marcus came home with takeout, expensive takeout from the seafood place downtown. He was in a good mood, joking with Rebecca, talking about the boat he was going to buy once the business takes off. I waited until after dinner. My heart was pounding so hard I thought they'd hear it. Marcus, I said, did you open a credit card in my name? The room went completely silent. Rebecca's fork stopped halfway to her mouth. Marcus's smile froze, then slowly faded. What are you talking about? He said. I got my credit report today. There's a card with a $7,000 balance. I didn't open it. Mom, that's crazy, Rebecca said. Why would Marcus? The billing address is this house, I continued. My voice was steady now, stronger than I expected. The charges are from the past 4 months, for things I never bought. Marcus stood up. He was a big man, and standing while I sat made him tower over me. Are you accusing me of something, Dorothy? I'm asking if you opened a credit card in my name. This is unbelievable. He shook his head, looking at Rebecca. Your mother is paranoid. First, she won't help us with the business loan. Now she's making up stories about credit card fraud. I'm not making it up, I said. I have the statement. Then someone stole your identity? Marcus said. Happens all the time. Old people are targets for scams. Maybe you should be more careful with your information. Old people. The way he said it made something in me harden. The card was opened in March, I said, right after I moved in. Right after I gave you access to my personal documents for the home insurance paperwork you said you needed. Rebecca's face had gone pale. Mom, you don't really think? I think someone used my information to open an account I never authorized, I said. And I think that someone has been making charges while telling me we need to cut costs and asking me to contribute more to household expenses. Marcus slammed his hand on the table. Rebecca jumped. So did I, but I didn't look away from him. You're living in my house, he said, his voice low and dangerous. Eating food I provide, using utilities I pay for. And you have the nerve to accuse me? It's not your house, I said quietly. The down payment that made this house possible came from me. The mortgage payments you've been short on, I covered those. The property tax bill last month, I paid that. This house wouldn't exist without my money. Then maybe you should leave, Marcus said. The words hung in the air like poison. Rebecca made a small sound, almost a gasp, but she didn't say anything. She just looked at her plate, her face burning with shame or fear, or both. Marcus, I said carefully, I'm not trying to cause problems. I just need to know the truth. The truth is, you're a bitter old woman who can't stand that your daughter has moved on with her life, he said. You're jealous that she has someone and you don't. So you're trying to cause problems between us. Each word was chosen to hurt, and it worked. I felt tears prick my eyes, but I blinked them back. I'd cried enough in my life through my husband leaving, through raising a child alone, through the death of my parents. I wasn't going to cry now. I want to know about the credit card, I said. Get out. Marcus pointed toward the basement stairs. Go to your room and think about what you're accusing me of. And when you're ready to apologize, maybe we'll talk about you continuing to live here. I stood up slowly. My legs felt shaky, but I made them work. I looked at Rebecca, waiting for her to say something. Anything. But she kept her eyes down, silent as she'd been through so much of this. Rebecca? I said quietly. Mom, maybe you should just give it some time. Let everyone calm down. Her voice was barely a whisper. I walked down the stairs to my basement room. I closed the door, and only then did I let the tears come. Not because of what Marcus had said, but because my daughter had said nothing. That night, I made a decision. I filled out the fraud report paperwork. I wrote down every charge I hadn't made. And the next morning, while they were both out, I called the police non-emergency line and filed a report. The officer who took my statement was kind. He'd seen cases like this before, he said. Family members who exploited elders, especially those who'd recently liquidated assets. He gave me information about resources, shelters if I needed them, legal aid. The hard part is usually getting the victim to admit it's abuse, he said. Most folks don't want to believe their family would hurt them. I'm a nurse, I told him. I've reported abuse before, just never my own. The officer nodded. You did the right thing. We'll investigate. In the meantime, I'd recommend staying somewhere safe. I thought about Patricia's guest room. I thought about the senior community where my old apartment had been, where I'd had friends and independence and peace. I thought about how much I'd given up because I'd believed I was helping my daughter build a better life. When I got home, my belongings were on the porch. Not just some of them, everything. My clothes in garbage bags, my books in boxes, my photos and keepsakes piled haphazardly on the concrete. It had rained that morning, and some of the boxes were wet, cardboard sagging. The front door was locked. I rang the doorbell. No answer. I called Rebecca's phone. It went straight to voicemail. I stood there on the porch, looking at my entire life reduced to soggy boxes and plastic bags, and I felt something shift inside me. Not sadness this time, not shame, anger, pure, clarifying anger. I called Patricia. I'm coming to get you, she said immediately when I told her what had happened. Don't you dare touch those boxes. We're documenting everything. She arrived 30 minutes later with her son, Tom, who was a lawyer. He took photos of everything, the boxes, the wet items, the locked door. He took notes about dates and times. Then he and Patricia helped me load everything into their vehicles. You're staying with me, Patricia said. No arguments. I can't. You absolutely can, and you will, she said firmly. Tom, tell her. Dorothy, what they did is illegal on multiple levels, Tom said. The credit card fraud, the unlawful eviction, you didn't have formal tenancy, but there's still a process they were required to follow. And if your money went toward the down payment and mortgage, you may have a legal claim to interest in the property. I don't want the house, I said. I just want my money back. Then that's what we'll fight for, he said. The next weeks were a blur. Tom filed a civil suit on my behalf, claiming fraud, conversion of assets, and financial elder abuse. The police investigated the credit card fraud. I gave them everything: my ledger of expenses, bank statements, the paperwork from the down payment on the house, text messages where Marcus and Rebecca had asked for money. Rebecca called me once. Mom, I don't understand why you're doing this. We're family. Family doesn't commit fraud, I said. Family doesn't lock you out and put your belongings in the rain. Marcus was angry. He made a mistake. He's been making mistakes for 6 months, Rebecca. Mistakes that have cost me $50,000. She was quiet for a long moment. I didn't know about the credit card. I swear I didn't. But you knew about everything else, I said. You knew he was asking me for money constantly. You knew I was paying for things that should have been your responsibility. You knew, and you said nothing. He told me you wanted to help, that you were happy to contribute. Did you ever ask me if that was true? Silence. I love you, Rebecca, I said. But love doesn't mean letting someone hurt me. And it doesn't mean standing by while someone I love hurts me either. She started to cry. I don't know how to fix this. You start by telling the truth, I said. You tell the police and the court exactly what happened. You stop protecting Marcus and start protecting yourself and what's right. He'll leave me if I do that. The fact that she saw that as a threat rather than a blessing told me how deep the manipulation went. But she was an adult. I couldn't save her from her own choices. Then maybe he should leave, I said. She hung up. The legal process took 4 months. In that time, I lived with Patricia in her guest room. We painted the walls a soft blue I'd always liked. She helped me replace the photos and keepsakes that had been damaged by rain. I started attending activities at the Senior Community Again book club, water aerobics, the Tuesday night poker game I'd missed. I also started seeing a therapist who specialized in family trauma. "You did nothing wrong," she told me in our first session. "Loving your child and wanting to help them doesn't make you responsible for someone else's crimes." But it took weeks for me to believe her. The evidence was overwhelming. Marcus had used my social security number and personal information from the home insurance documents to open the credit card. He'd made charges consistently for months. He couldn't explain where the money had gone. The business expenses, he claimed, didn't have receipts or documentation. The civil court ruled in my favor. Marcus was ordered to pay restitution for the fraudulent charges, for the money I'd contributed to the household beyond reasonable rent, and for damages. The total came to $48,000. The criminal case was harder. Marcus initially fought the charges, but faced with the evidence and Tom's thorough documentation, he eventually took a plea deal. He pled guilty to identity theft and fraud, received 2 years probation, and was ordered to pay additional fines. Rebecca filed for divorce 3 weeks after the plea deal. She called me from her lawyer's office. "I'm sorry, Mom," she said. She sounded tired, older. "I should have listened to you. I should have protected you." "You should have protected yourself," I said. "I know that now. He was. I didn't see it. Or maybe I didn't want to see it. The way he controlled everything. The way he made me feel like I couldn't trust my own judgment." "What will you do now?" I asked. "The house is going into foreclosure. I can't afford it alone, and Marcus stopped paying his share months ago. I'm moving in with a friend until I figure things out." She paused. "I know I don't deserve to ask, but could we maybe have coffee sometime? I want to try to make this right." I thought about it. About the years I'd spent raising her, loving her, sacrificing for her. About the months of exploitation and her silence. About the fact that despite everything, she was still my daughter. "One coffee," I said, "and then we'll see." We met at a cafe near Patricia's place. Rebecca looked different, thinner, tired, but there was something clearer in her eyes, like fog had lifted. "I've been thinking a lot about why I let it happen," she said after we'd ordered. "The therapist I started seeing says I confused love with obligation, that Marcus made me feel like if I didn't do what he wanted, if I didn't choose him, then I was a bad person." "That's manipulation," I said. "I know. And I let him manipulate me into letting him manipulate you. That's on me." She looked down at her hands. "I'm not asking you to forgive me. I just wanted you to know that I understand what I did was wrong. What I didn't do was wrong." "I appreciate that," I said. "Are you okay? Like really okay?" I thought about the question. Was I okay? I'd lost $50,000, $40,000 of which I'd get back eventually if Marcus ever actually paid the restitution. I'd lost 6 months of my life to stress and exploitation. I'd lost trust in my judgment and in my daughter. But I'd gained something too. I'd gained the knowledge that I could stand up for myself, even when it was hardest. I'd gained friends who supported me without expecting anything in return. I'd gained a new apartment in the senior community, smaller than my old one, but sunny, with a balcony where I grew herbs. "I'm getting there," I said. We talked for an hour. It wasn't easy, and there were silences that hurt, but it was honest in a way our conversations hadn't been in years. When we said goodbye, she hugged me carefully, like I was fragile. "I love you, Mom," she said. "I love you too," I said. "But Rebecca, love isn't enough. There has to be respect. There has to be protection. There has to be trust." "I know. I'm working on earning those back." "Good," I said. "That's a good place to start." I see her once a month now. We have coffee, talk about her job search, her therapy, her plans to go back to school. We don't talk about Marcus, who moved across the country after his probation ended. The house did go into foreclosure, and neither of them got anything from the sale after the bank took what was owed. My money, most of it, anyway, came back slowly. Marcus's restitution payments were inconsistent, but Tom had made sure there were consequences for non-payment. I eventually recovered 32,000 of the 48 I was owed. It wasn't everything, but it was enough. More than the money, though, I recovered myself. The version of me who knew her worth, who wouldn't sacrifice her security for anyone, who understood that saying no wasn't selfish, it was survival. Patricia and I still have coffee every week. We joined a local advocacy group that educates seniors about financial abuse. I share my story, the warning signs I missed, the manipulation I fell for, the way I eventually found my way out. If I can help even one person recognize what's happening to them before they lose everything, then something good came from the worst 6 months of my life. Last week, a woman approached me after one of my talks. She was 72, living with her grandson and his wife, slowly watching her savings disappear to emergencies and temporary loans. "I didn't think it was abuse," she said. "They're family. Family doesn't give anyone the right to exploit you," I told her. "And recognizing abuse doesn't mean you don't love them. It means you love yourself enough to protect yourself." She called me 3 days later. She'd moved in with her sister. She'd filed police reports. She'd taken the first steps toward getting her life back. "Thank you," she said. I didn't know I could say no. "You always could," I said. "Sometimes we just need permission to do it." I'm 67 now. I work part-time at a community health clinic, educating patients about elder rights and resources. I volunteer at the senior center. I play poker on Tuesdays, attend book club on Thursdays, and spend Saturdays on my balcony with my herbs and a good novel. My life is smaller than I once imagined it would be, but it's mine. Completely, entirely mine. And I've learned that sometimes the greatest gift you can give yourself is the courage to walk away from people who don't value you even when those people share your blood. Especially then, because I deserve respect. I deserve honesty. I deserve to spend the money I worked 37 years to earn on myself, on my peace, on my future. And anyone who truly loves me would want that for me too. That's the lesson I wish I'd learned earlier, but it's the lesson I'll carry forward for whatever years I have left. And maybe, just maybe, it's the lesson Rebecca is learning too. We're building something new, she and I. Not what we had before that's gone, damaged beyond repair, but something honest. Something where both of us know the cost of silence, and both of us choose to speak up. That's not nothing. That's actually everything.